What's up, guys? It's Wacka. Welcome you to PWO Season 16 PRs. Um, this went a lot faster than I expected it to. I expected to actually be working on this for like a couple days, but um, I kind of autistically sat here for like 3 hours and just kind of um, did everything at once. And I've done PRs quite a few times before. I'm probably somewhere in like the 20s of the amount of times I've done PRs. Um, so the process just kind of gets faster and faster, and I kind of have a format now where I'm pretty satisfied with like the way I have like laid out and like the points I like to make, at least for now. But I'm sure I'll have to come up with a system later on that'll help me rank things better because these rankings might be a bit scuffed. Um, but yeah. Anyways, I haven't played here since like season 8, so it's been quite a while, and I'm happy to see some new faces here. And it seems like um, PWO is like a nice like family almost. So that's very cool to see. I guess they always had like that family vibe um, years ago when I was playing more, but um, still nice to see them going. I was thinking that they were gonna die down quite a bit, but no, they kept going. So very nice for them. Um, anyways, before I get started, um, I just want to say, if you don't like your placement, I'm just gonna put it out there. PRs don't matter. They don't matter at all. I've seen very low placements do very well. It's all about the coach and how they pilot their team, or how comfortable said coaches are with piloting their team, because I've definitely seen some like really good players just draft teams that don't work for them and they perform absolutely awful. I've seen coaches that don't play very strong, but they have teams that allow them to just make mistakes here and there, or like um, easy to prep with, for example. So if you get last place, doesn't mean that I think you're a loser and I think you're stupid. It just means that I think, in terms of strength, you need to be probably a better player to pilot said teams. So first up, we have Spectre. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but um, yeah. So this team consists of Arcanine, Sylveon, Xurkitree, Medicham, Seismitoad, Smeargle, Vileplume, Komala, Sigilif, Leavanny, Staravia, and Mightyena. So we got a full team of 12, and somehow this full team of 12 just does not have a steel type. Um, that kind of sucks. We also have 3 normal types, which is kind of funny, but um, most of the normal types don't really act as Pokemon. Well, Komala does, but Smeargle and Staravia like aren't really normal types, really. But yeah, we don't have a steel type, and most notably, the reason I had to give this last place is because uh, these are the worst speed tiers I've ever seen from like any draft ever. I'm not even kidding. I don't think I've ever seen a draft where the fastest Mon was Sigilif. Um, and the sad thing is, there's not really like a Trick Room mode either. Um, I think Medicham and like Sigilif get Trick Room, obviously, but our slowest Mon is Vileplume at base 50, and that's not really like a Trick Room speed tier. Like it could be a speed tier in VGC, but I feel like at that point, like you're just better off running Chlorophyll Sunny Day Vileplume, and just trying to run like speed that way. Um, it's a bit rough. Defenses are also a bit rough. Like big, like physical attackers are just going to demolish whatever's in front of it, especially if they're like anything faster than Sigilif, or probably more like Arcanine. Sigilif is a good Mon, but I'm thinking more like Arcanine is like the type of Mon that is going to be forced to like take hits. Intimidate is nice, but Clear Amulet also exists now, or just setting up with faster Mons is just better. because the speeds are so low, like we're kind of forced to run Scarf on quite a few guys. We got Xurkitree. I typically don't like having to run like choice items on my electric types because just not being able to touch grounds is really awful. But I guess Xurkitree specifically, you get Energy Ball, you get Dazzling Gleam. I think you get like Signal Beam too. So it's not awful, but it doesn't really like to lock into moves, I feel. And I feel like you'd rather have like Tail Glow and maybe break things potentially. So yeah, we also have Smeargle and Leavanny. Those are gonna be like the main like setup mons where you have like Sticky Web. Smeargle will probably have like Spore or Ceaseless Edge plus like Stone Axe or whatever to get up hazards. However, they're kind of telegraphed in a lot of matchups and they're pretty easy to prep for. And you probably also don't want to use Smeargle and Leavanny over like any of those top 5. Or like Vileplume, Komala. I guess you could probably bring one of them over like those bottom 7 basically because well, Vileplume is very solid, but most of the mons I feel like aren't worth using over those top 5. Like I don't really see anyone trying to use Mightyena. Again, Intimidate, but Mightyena has a really bad base stat total. Staravia is an NFE that is really frail, not fast enough, and isn't really strong enough. Oh yeah, we also have Sigilyph there, and Komala's solid, I think. I think the ordering is kind of messing me up. I think Smeargle I should have probably swapped some of the mons to like help me look at the teams a bit better, but I guess that's kind of my fault. But yeah, no Steel, and our Dark type is Mightyena, so good luck. Next up we have Kronos. Pretty cool team. We have Braviary, Hisui, Volcanion, Cleaver, Primeape, Tentacruel, as well as Toadscruel, Farigiraf, Ditto, Glimmet, Togedemaru, Murkrow, and Swirlix. So we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 mons that run a Violate. Well, Swirlix probably won't run a Violate, but well, maybe not Glimmet either. Glimmet might be like a Sashmon. Murkrow could also be a Sashmon, but I've actually found Murkrow to be pretty solid as in a Violate sweeper with Calm Mind. And Primeape will probably be like a Violate, so it can get off like bulk ups. Kronos has some decent Scarfers. Volcanion can kind of slot a Scarf. Cleaver is usually always a Scarf anyway. I don't think like I would say Cleaver's most used item is Scarf. Even though it is weak to rocks, but it's just pretty strong with like Scarf Stone Axe or like coming in, click U-turn type thing. So it's not bad. We also have Ditto, which will also be holding a choice Scarf technically. So even though our speed tiers also still suck, they're not as bad as Spectre's because I think Scarf Ditto plus like Scarf Cleaver are like really solid, as well as getting that setup with Braviary. Having Esper Wing is very nice. I would say Swirlix and Leavanny are pretty equal. Sticky Webbers, unironically. No, Leavanny is definitely better, but Swirlix is just there to get up webs, I feel. One of the reasons I place this low is because Swirlix and Togedemaru are our dragon answers. I don't think there was like a lot of dragons in low tier, but there's quite a couple teams that have like decent dragons, like Flygon. Now I think about it though, I don't think anyone actually really picked up like a lot of dragons, because I think stuff like Druddigon was there, and I don't think that got picked up. But I'm trying to think of other dragons that might have been there. I don't know. But it's still like, what was on this team? No dragon on this team. Huh. maybe it's not that big of a deal. But for the most part, it's like the speed tiers, to- Tentacruel, Toadscruel. I'm gonna get those confused all the time. They're not really speed tiers. Like, sure they have 100 speed, but they don't really want to run that fast if they don't have to, because they'd much rather run bulk, and they're also kind of weak offensively. So they have to do a bunch of other supportive roles. They can spin, sure. Spin gives them +1 speed, but yeah, again, not the best. It's not the best thing in the world to have that. What else? We have 2 normal types. Oh, Farigiraf. Farigiraf is a pretty solid option too. It can definitely wish pass into stuff like Volcanion or Braviary pretty nicely. Togedemaru also gets a wish, so it can do that supportive role. So it's not too bad. We just have to work a little bit harder, I think, for games, and I don't really see just a lot of cohesion with this team. Although I will say, with the amount of hazard stack we have, like I love the amount of hazard stack we have, especially if it helps like Scarf Cleaver or like Braviary help clean up. But I think we could have made our pieces a little bit more condensed, I suppose. I'm not really sure the best way to word that, but maybe could have been a little bit better. But I do like a lot of the mons here. I should probably talk faster, but I probably will by the end when I get bored and want to be done with the video. But anyways, we have Big Shane up next. Again, kind of like these first 2 teams, we kind of lack things that are very important, especially to me when I'm making PRs. So first off, we don't have a dark type, and we just don't have we also don't have a normal type, so we just don't have a ghost resist. Our ghost resist is basically Cryogonal and Muck, especially because we have Kofag and Espeon. It's going to be a bit rough into that like Hisui and Zoroark matchup. What other ghosts were allowed that people got? I can't think of. I think did someone get Chandelure? I don't know. Usually Chandelure is like a big one in low tier. I can't think of anyone that picked it up, but I know there's quite a few ghosts that got picked up anyways. So those could be a bit rough. It's not just ghost types. I think in general you need a dark type, especially to stop stuff like stored power sweeps. Especially because other than the top 2, the mons on this team aren't like super strong, and they can definitely activate like policies, like Kofag Shadow Ball into a psychic type, clicking agility, activate weakness policy, click stored power, everything dies because our steel type has 50 base defense. Our other steel type is an NFE mon that you probably won't use too much. It's also our fairy type, and that might run into some issues too. So yeah, it struggles a little bit, but there's quite a few strengths to Gyarados Mega Main. Pretty cool combo. You have to be careful about clicking electric moves into Gyarados, although once Manectric Mega evolves, like, then you can kind of click electric moves. It'll be Donphan that comes in instead, probably, but I don't think it's like too big of a deal because Donphan is kind of specially frail. Easy to slap an AV on it though, so it's not. I don't think it's like the worst thing in the world. But yeah, we just lack some things that I think are important in draft. Because again, did any of these guys have a ghost? None of these had a ghost. Next up, we have Scary Terry, who does have a ghost. We have Jellicent. So like, if you look at this team and you look at like a spec Shadow Ball switch in, actually though, like what's the switch in to like Scarf Water Spout? Anyways, I'm getting too far ahead of myself. We got Scary Terry next with the Florges Fortress, Raikou, Delphox, Tangela, Quillfish, Zangoose, Hippowdon, Vullaby, Hitmonlee, and Jellicent. Very much more of a cohesive team. Why did I place this low? Well, I guess I'll talk about the good parts first. The defensive cores are pretty nasty. I've used Florges plus Quillfish in higher tier Nat decks before, and they are very solid. I think Florges is kind of a weird mon to use. It kind of gets hardwalled by steals, especially because you're not allowed to Terra. So it's a bit weird, but it's easy to kind of bait into steals and also bring in Delphox or Hippowdon as like the bulky ground to deal with those steals. So it's not horrible. But for the most part, this team is just kind of overly defensive almost. It doesn't really feel like we have strong breakers. Zangoose is kind of a good breaker, but it is frail. 90 speed is okay, especially because you have quick attack and like Swords Dance. But once it's gonna miss a KO, and then you kind of struggle to like break things other than that. Hitmonlee is okay, but again, it's just really frail and it's slower than Zangoose. I think what could have made it better is I think combine Vullaby and Hitmonlee into something like Pangoro. Because that would have offered a better dark type, because I kind of don't even want to consider Vullaby as like a real dark type for this team. This team is also like kind of like Shane's. It's kind of susceptible to like stored power sweeps. Especially because our steel has no special defense. So like these teams defensively are kind of similar into certain matchups, but this one, like, it's a little bit better, but still has a little bit of those struggles, and I think we could have combined our pieces a little bit better. I don't think you need Jellicent. Maybe to an extent, maybe you don't need No, I think Quillfish stays. Because Fizdef to Florges Spidef. Yeah, you could probably make Jellicent, Hitmonlee, Vullaby into, like, Pangoro. And then maybe get just a different ghost. I don't know if like Drifblim was open, but because you'd be losing the flying type from Vullaby, like you could probably add like Drifblim maybe. That would be kind of my suggestion, I guess. Next up we have Acid with the Alomomola, Cyclozar, Tinkaton, Crobat, Hisuian, Typhlosion, Palmot, Brute Bonnet, Cutiefly, Archeops, Jinx, and Morgrem. I don't know if I think maybe I skipped like the team preview on this one, but it's fine. Just making sure I'm still recording. Cool. So this team is pretty cool. I love Aloe. I know he's not going to use it as a choice band mon. I can only hope that they're base enough to run choice band Aloe. Makes a decent regen core with Cyclozar, which is always cool. Helps with that longevity. Speed tiers are great. Crobat into Cyclozar into Archeops, kinda, and also like Palmot into Typhlosion, Hisui. Yeah, just very great speed. Usually anything below 90 doesn't really matter, I think, because I wouldn't count Morgrem or Cutiefly otherwise, especially because Morgrem's Prankster usually, so that speed tier doesn't really count, but usually below 90, like, it doesn't matter. Very based, by the way, for stealing Jinx from Mario B. It was the best part of the draft, actually, like, sniping Mario B from Jinx. I love that. Anyways, kind of more into the team now that I'm looking at it more. Palmot is kind of forced to run like Volt Absorb because we don't have a ground type. Kind of a theme with some of these teams. Like, why are y'all not drafting your ground types? I think, like, pretty easily. We could have slot like Crocodile here. Um, I don't know how you'd have to make the points work out, but I think Crook could have slot here somewhere. Um, Instead of like Brute Bonnet. I do like Brute Bonnet, but Grass Dark is an awful typing. Um, Ridden with plenty of weaknesses. Not an awful Pokemon, just an awful typing. Another thing that I've noticed about this team is it doesn't have a lot of like. Uh, how should I word it? No, it has Aloe, and Bonnet is like pretty physically tanky, but most of the other mons are not very tanky. So basically, like people's game plan will be to bait an Aloe, status it, and then kind of let it die, and then once that's dead, like we kind of just break through with like a Scarf physical attacker, even a Scarf special attacker, because Tinkaton isn't like the bulkiest thing in the world, but Wish Passing is always nice for it. And again, you kind of want to ground type. I kind of think Palma likes running stuff like Natural Cure and Iron Fist. Volt Absorb's like, it's not awful. And you also have an electric resist with Brute Bonnet, but I think when you're drafting Aloe, you kind of want to pair it with a decent ground. And then you're not forcing Palmot to be Volt Absorb. But Palmot is pretty broken, and I like that mon like so much. Honestly, I could have rated this team higher as well. It's really just like these last four pieces too. Like, I don't really care about them. I don't like Cyclizar and Crobat. But I like Aloe, I like Tink. Typh is interesting, I love Palmot. Bonnet's interesting. So like there's a lot of good things about this team. It's just not really my favorite. Next up we have Caden. I think he wanted to be placed last because I'm supposed to hate him for some reason. The only thing I hate him for is not drafting Flamigo. And I think we're starting to get into the coaches that like, why didn't they just pick up Flamigo at any point? Because that mon is awesome and it would have fit so well on like so many teams. But yeah, getting into the team, we have the Makalola, Bronzong, Raichu Lola, Tatsugiri, Rillaboom, Darmanitan, Aromatisse, Piloswine, Volbeat, Cincino, and Zweilous. I thought this was going to be like one of the tankier teams when we were drafting, but it's really just like Muck Bronzong, and kind of like Aromatisse, Piloswine. Rillaboom can be bulky, but we kind of like ran into that scenario. Well, we kind of more ran into like the type of team that's like just bulky offense. I think I kind of see Bronzong as like an offensive mon a lot of the time. 89 attack isn't bad, and it has really strong moves with the Gyro Ball. And you can run Trick Room pretty easily. It's really tanky, so you can easily run like weakness policies on it. Solid mon. What else? Bronzongs are rock resist. That's okay, I think. Somehow we have like a bug weakness. Darm isn't the best. I think Aromatisse kind of handles it. But I suppose theoretically we are kind of weak to U-turn spam. And it's kind of easy to abuse Aromatisse in a way because it's so slow and like it's gonna get broken down by a lot of steals. And our steel, we can switch into steel types, but steel types usually have stuff like Earthquake, or a couple of them might have coverage to hit Bronzong with like knockoff or like Heat Crash or something like that. Removal, not the best. Tatsugiri is interesting, but it's like the removal is Tatsugiri and Volbeat, and I think those are like the two worst mons on the team, other than Zweilous. Like, I'm not really looking at Zweilous as like a real mon on the team. It's just kind of there. But like Tatsu and Volbeat are very, very frail, and from my experience using Tatsu, like you kind of use it as like a switch in, or like you kind of want to click Draco with it in some instances. Um, but it's a cool mon. Um, you could have grabbed Blastoise when you had the chance, but we kind of chose not to. But that's okay. Because Tatsu is cool. Volbeat is also cool, but it's frail and it's kind of hard to bring. And I feel like you'd rather use like all the other mons over Volbeat, even like Cinccino, like you'd rather use that. Decent team, scored kind of in the middle. Next up, I have JT's team. We have Empoleon, Mega Sceptile, Galarian Weezing, Swellow, Alolan Marowak, Hitmonchan, Sneasel, Revavroom, Kadabra, Hippopotas, and Plusle. Very cool team. This is one of the few times where I don't really mind that our ground type is useless because we have 3 mons with Lightning Rod. Plusle doesn't even really count, but like we still have Mega Sceptile and we still have Alolan Marowak, so we kind of cover that like the ground type role with Marrow and Sceptile. I'm sure Marrow likes to run Rockhead with like Flare Blitz, but I kind of find like it doesn't need to run Flare Blitz. Like in a lot of instances, you'd rather click Poltergeist or like Shadow Bone anyway. Especially against like all the teams that like just don't really have dark types or like ghost resists. So I respect that a lot. Mega Sceptile is also very cool to handle those electric types. I like how it pairs with Empoleon like a lot. I also like how Empoleon baits in mons that Swellow loves to break down as well. It can kind of force in like grass types. I guess it could force in electric types, but most electric types, other than like Manectric, I feel like are slower than Swellow anyways, and a lot of electrics are frail. So I'd assume like Specs Boomburst would probably knock out most of them anyways. So I don't really think that's like a tough issue anyway. And Marowak and Sceptile kind of handle like all the other electric types like Xurkitree, Mega Manectric, Sandy Shocks. So like stuff like that. Revavroom is a very cool sweeper mon. I think in low tier, Revavroom is a lot more scary because there's a lot less things that can kind of defensively stop it. Like you don't have to really face like Ting Lu and Pecharunt in low tier. Like those are like 2 mons that just kind of sit on its face. There's a lot of other mons that are higher tier that kind of sit on its face. Even like Great Tusk kind of sits on its face. But those aren't in low tier. Like even if you look at his own team, like Empoleon gets high horsepowered, Sceptile gets gunk shotted, Weezing gets iron headed, Swellow dies like everything, Marrow probably dies like the high horsepower, Hitmonchan, you know, like you kind of see the gist. Like Revavroom is very hard to counter in low tier. And it gets some annoying tools too, like Parting Shot. So yeah, very cool. Also really love Sneasel. That mon's really underrated. And Hitmonchan is always a free win against me, so as long as you bring Sneasel against me, or I'm sorry, Hitmonchan against me, you're good. Especially if you bring Plusle against me, because I also tend to lose to Thunderbolt paras. So just click Thunderbolt with Plusle and I'll probably lose. So yeah, just letting you know. Next up we have Tiger. I think we're about halfway through the list now, so we're getting into the top half of the teams. I would say past like the team with no dark type. The teams got a lot better. You guys just saw the next placement, but I don't really care. So yeah, next up we have Tiger, who has Arcanine Hisui, Starmie, Breloom, Stunfisk, Sableye, Alcremie, Mega Glalie, Varoom, for some reason, Goodra, Yanmega, and Castform. So the main piece of this team, I think, is Arcanine Hisui, and it's all about how we kind of position Arcanine. I don't really think this team positions Arcanine very well. We do have Starmie that can kind of pivot around. I guess the Omega can kind of pivot around, but I kind of wish we had like specific pivots into Arcanine. But overall, I can't believe Arcanine was allowed in low tier. I think regular is fine, but Hisuian Arcanine is crazy. That mon is just so hard to switch in on. Um, with Rockhead, Head Smash, and Flare Blitz, like that's tough. That's very very tough. Um, Starmie is also a really nice option on this team. I can't gripe too much about Varun being the grounded poison because Starmie is such a good spinner. Um, and it has natural cure, so it can just kind of, it can take like the poison from like T Spikes if there's a matchup where T Spikes comes. And it can kind of just spin those and switch out. And doesn't really mind it too much. Breloom is really good priority, especially on a team that's kind of slow-ish. Starmie's really fast. Glalie decently fast. But I do like that we have extra priority with Breloom. It has defensive matchups too, where it can run like Poison Heal, and it will help against those ground types for Arcanine. So I'm glad to see the Breloom there. Maybe it could have been like a more physically tanky grass, but it's fine, I think. We also have an offensive ice that helps deal with grounds. So very cool. Sableye, super annoying. Stunfisk. I can't believe he grabbed that round 4, by the way. Stunfisk is really nice. I used it in low tier like last year, and that mon eats hits for days. It beats basically like every flying type. Not that Arcanine's gonna struggle with those, but if like Breloom baits in something and you don't want Arcanine to get chipped down, you can always go into Stunfisk. We also have the Sableye that's super annoying. Gets like Encore, T-Wave, Wisp, whatever you want to do with it. All Creamy is a decent fairy in low tier, I think. Might have been overpriced. And the thing is, I don't know what Varun is just doing on the team, and we're kind of relying on All Creamy to be like our dragon switch in. Luckily, Tiger has one of the better dragons with Gudra. But if we were facing like an opposing Gudra, like it would have been pretty tough. Because All Creamy's Fizz Def isn't great, its speed isn't great. So a lot of dragons will just kind of break through it anyways. But luckily, it doesn't seem like people seem to draft dragon types. There is the Mega Sceptile, which is kind of concerning looking at this team, but I think it'll be fine. We also have Yanmega that helps with speed boost, so we can kind of chip down things. I don't know what Varun did and why people lost to it, but I hope to see Varun do what it did before. Yeah, decent team. Next up, we have Cryptix with the Gastrodon, Talonflame, Galvantula, Comfey, Bisharp, Meloetta, Skuntank, Machamp, Quaxwell, and Queefion. Really cool team. I guess I have to think it's cool. I helped him draft it. He kind of went on his own for the first 4 picks, but I think I recommended Bisharp and Meloetta kind of helped steer back in the right direction because it helped pick up the offense quite a bit. Bisharp is our only flying resist, which is okay. Might struggle in that matchup against like Swellow, where we have like the Specs Hurricane potentially, or even just like Specs Boom Burst. Yeah, there's not really a Boom Burst switching on this team, but it's fine. Well, probably Meloetta actually. So we just have to kind of makeshift our defenses as we go. Gastrodon can kind of soft check a lot of things. Talonflame kind of soft checks a lot of like physical attackers if you're running Flame Body. Meloetta is a really good AV mon. Galvantula gets up webs, but I don't really understand why we got webs and then got Comfey. because Comfy doesn't benefit from webs at all. Um, I feel like we could have made Comfy a Gardevoir, because Gardevoir also has good special defense, and I think it pressures a little bit better more than it pressures a little bit more offensively than Meloetta does. And it benefits more from webs. Um, I guess Meloetta can benefit from webs too, but um, I think you guys understand what I'm saying. Like Comfy just doesn't need webs really, um, but it is removal. Although I think Talonflame and Skuntank are awesome for removal as well as Quaxwell. Quaxwell is a viable Pokemon. Okay, that mon is shiced as fuck. It's pretty bulky. It has spin. It has moxie. So like if it kills something, um, all of a sudden you kind of have a mon that's worth being scared of almost. Kind of funny that it's a Quaxwell, but Gen 9, what can I say? Leafeon's very cool. I like Leafeon. Machamp is very scary with like guts sets. Um, kind of wish we had a little bit more special offense, which is again a reason why I considered recommending Gardevoir, but I guess at that point we would have wanted. I don't know what special normal types would have been left. Like, I think he was looking at Exploud, but I think Exploud was like super expensive. And also like another issue I see with this team is that it's kind of just like the top eight. Um, Leafeon is viable. I think Quaxwell is kind of viable, but for the most part, I think you're just going to be using like top eight. Whereas a lot of teams have like a full 12. Speaking of full 12, we got Howl. With the Glade, Ribombee, Decidueye, Orthworm, Magmortar, Wartortle, Gligar, Raichu, Drapion, Cloth, Arctibax, and Raticate. I really want to rate this team a lot higher, and the reason I didn't is because Wartortle and Gligar as like the defensive core for the most part. You also have Orthworm and like kind of Decidueye, kind of Drapion maybe, but like Wartortle, Gligar like the main offense in a way. I don't know why we grabbed Wartortle so early, but I assume he was probably sniped from Blastoise. Um, they're very susceptible to knockoff, and even like Decidueye is very susceptible to knockoff. Um, we don't have a lot of mons that like losing their items. Even like Raticate doesn't like losing the Flame Orb before getting burned. Arctibax doesn't like losing the Violate. Cloth can probably take a knockoff if you're running like regen, but Cloth is kind of weird, and I don't really know what to think about that one. Magmortar doesn't like losing boots or specs or scarf or whatever it does. Raichu doesn't like losing life orb. Drapion can probably eat a knockoff. It's like whatever. Glade likes its item usually. But yeah, the thing that I thought about this team that was super great though was Glade plus Ribombee. This is one of the teams that I think benefits more from webs. Um, I think Web's Glade is one of the scariest things I've seen from anyone's team so far. Glade is one of the strongest wall breakers in the format, and with Webs, you pretty much just make a wall breaker that is also a sweeper, and therefore it is a mon that just kills everything. Um, some teams just don't have a Glade switch in, and Glade will claim something every time it comes in. That mon is also pretty bulky on the special side, so good luck killing it sometimes. Um, but yeah, its coverage is amazing. It has really solid, accurate options that are very strong with it's like 145 base power Sacred Sword, 105 base power Psycho Cut, Night Slash, Leaf Blade. Really strong mon. And on top of that, we have really good hazards with Orthworm. We have T-Spikes with both Gligar and Drapion. Decent spinner with Wartortle. Um, I guess, in all fairness, like Wartortle is probably bulkier than Blastoise with a Violate, so I can't be too mad about it. And when Smash Choice is already banned anyways, so I'm sure he's not super mad about Blastoise being taken. Maybe he wanted Wartortle. I kind of see the vision, but it is a little bit weak to knock off. Um, Good type chart, I think. Our rock resists, yeah, Orthworm and Glade are fine. Everything else looks really good. Yeah, really good team. Next up, we have T4U with the Pheasantipity, Umbreon, Frostlass, Tyrantrum, Vikavolt, Blaziken, Mantine, Doublade, Dugtrio, Mr. Rhyme, and Illumise. Um, this defensive core between Fez and Umbreon is sickening, honestly. Um, you also have Mantine that helps deal with waters. I don't think anyone really picked up like those offensive waters like Crawdaunt, Feraligatr, Inteleon, which is sad because usually those guys get picked up, but um, you guys decide to be a bit different, which is always cool to me. Um, but Mantine does help with some of those extra matchups that Fez and Umbreon might not like. Um, Blaziken offers a very good like mixed attacker slash wall breaker. Tyrantrum is also a really good wall breaker. Again, it has like that rock head. I think it gets head smash. It gets Dragon Dance, Rock Polish, so it can act as a decent sweeper. Vikavolt, really good Weber. I don't know if it's a better Weber than Galvantula, but I think it's a better mon than Galvantula overall. And overall, like that mon can also break things with 145 special attack, and 43 speed is kind of pathetic, but agility makes it outspeed pretty much everything in low tier except probably like Mega B and Sceptile, which aren't killing Vikavolt, I don't think. So, unless they're very lucky. um, so that's a very scary mon. Dugtrio's allowed an arena trap, which is also pretty terrifying. So you're forcing things to run items, especially things that could potentially want to run like boosting items. Um, and Dugtrio's just not allowing that, which is very cool. Um, Doublade has good priority. Does Blaziken have Vacuum Wave? I don't know. But I think Frostlass gets Shard, probably. Um, Dugtrio gets Sucker Punch, so we have decent priority. We also have Prankster Illumise. I think Mr. Rhyme should have been Eldegoss. I think Mr. Rhyme is pretty awful. Ice Psychic is just an awful typing. Like, it makes more sense on Jinx, as Jinx is more of like a like offensive mon, whereas Mr. Rhyme is kind of slow and it like clicks rapid spin. I think I'd much rather this be an Eldegoss. And Eldegoss kind of helps against waters where like some waters might still overwhelm Mantine. Um, what's like a water type that would overwhelm Mantine? Um, Starmie would overwhelm Mantine. Um, Probably not Tatsugiri. Honestly, like offensive Quillfish probably overwhelms Mantine. Um, but like I guess you kind of get it. Like offensive grasses, Gyarados will kind of overwhelm Mantine. Um, yeah, I think grasses are a little important. Um, or like a more defensive ground, but we don't have that really. Um, but yeah, I think it's still a good team. Um, I feel like it's a little bit all over the place personally, but um, I think Tyrantrum, Vika, Blaziken is super cool, and I think Fez, Umbreon help round out the team so much. Like the other mons just don't really matter to me that much. That's kind of why it places higher. In third, we have my team. I wasn't sure where to put my team, but I felt like because I've looked at it so long, I'm probably a bit more biased towards how well I've placed it. But I do think about it, and I think there's a lot less issues with it than I've found with other teams. So this team consists of Hatterene, Mega Beedrill, Sandy Cox, Iron Jugulus, Blastoise, Copperaja, Chestnut, Unpheasant, Maractus, and Carkol. This team has really good hazards. I actually didn't expect myself to draft a team with such good hazards, but it's mostly like Karkle and Sandy Shocks anyway. But we also have good spikers, T spikes, B drill if I'm forcing a swap, decent removal. Blast like if Shell Smash Blastoise isn't allowed, like the only thing Blastoise is doing is clicking Rapid Spin. And I also have Karkle and like supposedly Defog Unpheasant or maybe Beedrill. I've run Defog Mega Beedrill like once. I'm hoping to not do that again. Oh, and I also have Magic Bounce, which it's not technically like listed as removal, but it deters hazards and like you don't want to click webs or Stealth Rock into Hatterene. Um, and that was kind of the idea with this team is Hatterene deters hazards so that Mega Beedrill has a lot more freedom. Um, Especially in the format where I'm not used to seeing Megas being allowed in low tier. I feel like Mega Beedrill has a lot of potential. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be like the MVP of the league or anything because I don't trust myself with any of those things. Like, if I had to guess, my MVP is probably gonna be like Kaparaja. um, it's just the way I play Mons. Offensive Mons don't sweep. It's always like the bulky attackers that stay in on like 5 Mons and KO everything. That's how my Mons work. Um, so yeah, it has quite a bit of cohesion there. Getting up hazards for Mega Beedrill is very helpful. Um, also have like a little bit of a Trick Room mode with Hat plus Kaparaja, I think is very cool. Defensive core with Toys, Chestnut, Kaparaja is also very cool. Hat's also pretty bulky. Jug can take a hit, Sandy Shocks can take a hit, so I have a lot of makeshift defense as well. Because I do kind of like the idea of running offensive like Chestnut or like Water Spout Blastoise if I wanted to. So having that makeshift defense is also very nice. Maractus, I think, was a very good one pointer. It can Sunny Day, it can click Weather Ball, and it's very hard to switch in on. Unironically, if it gets an extra turn, um, it can kind of go ham. It gets growth. If it ends up dying, I can bring in Sandy Shocks that also benefits with the photosynthesis. Very cool. Um, I can also send an Iron Jugulis and Miss Hurricane if I want to, so that's also very cool. Um, One of the gripes I have with my team for sure, um, Hatterene is decent special offense, but I wouldn't really consider it like a special breaker. It's not fast enough to be a breaker. Jugulis kind of misses a lot of damage rolls on things, and I think Sandy Shocks also kind of misses damage rolls on things. So I think my team could have benefit more from like a special wall breaker. But I think it has potential to kind of makeshift those things. Um, and it's kind of hard to rate this team because I've looked at it for so long and I've kind of seen everything about it. I'm also kind of forced to run like AV on a couple things, which is okay. I think Copper likes AV. Blastoise, if it's not Smash Toys, like AV or Helmet are like usually going to be the option on it. Hatterene is fine with AV, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Very usable. Karkle also like a Violite, Spadef, very good. So yeah. Second to last, we have Mario B with the Mega Absol, Cobalion, Noivern, Serena, Rhyperior, Slurpuff, Garbodor, Bruxish, Clang, and Lopunny. I made this the same. I rated this the same as my team because I feel like they function kind of similarly. Um, for him, it's like Clang, Lopunny. For me, it's Unpheasant, Maractus. Um, Maybe Garbodor is comparable more to like the Karkle. Um, Bruxish is the water type, which is I think okay. Um, oh, actually, I feel like I fucked up actually. I'm looking at this team more and I kind of like it less. Um, so okay, this is what I'm seeing. The special attacker is Noivern, which kind of needs like an item to be like strong. Absol's special attack is pretty fake. It does have coverage, but Absol's better destroying things physically. So I don't really see a strong special attacker here. So I don't actually think I like this team as much. Um, but I think this team still has very good strong points. Mega Absol is very strong and terrifying. Cobalion is very hard to deal with in low tier. Um, Noivern is still strong, even though 97 is kind of weak sauce. Um, Serena has really good offensive matchups, I feel. Rhyperior is just very hard to switch in on. And because of like Solid Rock, it's just very like it can just eat a super effective hit, like it doesn't matter, and then it just kills something back. Slurpuff has the ability to run both webs, or it can run Belly Drum. I think Belly Drum Slurpuff in low tier is very scary. Um, Especially paired with like Rocky Helmet Garbodor with Aftermath and Spike stacking. Bruxish is a very nice screens breaker because our Defogger's Noivern, I think Defog Noivern's okay. Um, but if we're using Serena to spin, Bruxish can easily remove screens with the Psychic Fangs, and Strong Jaw hits very hard. Do not judge Bruxish by its stats because that mon is very terrifying. Um, Very cool mon, honestly. Um, Clang is not real, but we have a Steel type with Cobalion, so it's like whatever. I don't really know why he drafted Clang. I guess maybe Clang was like the best one pointer he saw. I think the best one pointer I saw was Swanna, but whatever. Lopunny is interesting. It has Klutz, so you can run like Trick Assault Vest. I think it's very funny. And I hope he does that. Um, Other than that, the only thing I have left to say is fuck you for making the draft like 4 days longer. Um, yeah. Lastly, we have Jarvis with the Primarina, Flygon, Durant, Claydol, Roserade, Mabostiff, Bellybolt, Crocolore, Zoroark, Kabutops, and Kricketune. This team is very strong. Um, Although the stats kind of don't really look that way, but there's a lot of like min max mons there, just like Kricketune is kind of making everything look bad. Um, and Crocolore, I guess technically. Crocolore is kind of like Carkol, where like its stats aren't good, but a Violate is what makes them good. Um, Anyways, yeah, this team has a very strong offensive core that can also really work defensively. We have the Primarina, Flygon, Roserade, Mabostiff, Bellybolt. Bellybolt is like surprisingly scary offensively. If you don't have like the ground type to switch into it, which like 3 teams don't have a ground type, Bellybolt's just kind of go in on those, and you get Toxic to kind of help against other options versus it. It gets Muddy Water, even for the grounds. It's not the strongest thing in the world, but it works. Um, Mabostiff is one of the scariest wall breakers in low tier because you switch out, it basically has +2, like whatever move, and it has really good coverage. So if you're not switching in like a Bastiodon, like something's dying. Like something is just dying to Mabostiff. It's very scary to switch in on. Um, Really underrated mon, honestly. I'm surprised I don't see it used more often. My biggest gripe with this team is Durant. That mon is utterly god awful. Speed tiers are also a little bit low, but I think 110 is good enough for me for low tier because I think Zoroark Hisui will at least it'll scarf. I think Flygon's a really good scarfer too, as well as Mabostiff, and I think you can run manual rain on Kabutops as well. So like the speed is fine. Um, but Durant is not fine. Durant has to go. That mon is utterly awful. Um, I guess to elaborate a little bit more, I've used it in low tier before, and it missed I think 80% of the moves it clicked, and it lost me the game every time. Well, maybe I won like one game, but it wasn't because Durant won the game. Durant made it closer. um, yeah, Durant is awful. It's gonna miss its moves. Even if you run wide lens, just drop Durant, please. Pick up Lucario. Drop Claydol. You don't need Claydol. You can. Well, Claydol's a good mon. Um, I don't know. You could drop like Kabutops and Durant and pick up Lucario. You don't need Kabutops. You have a water type. Rock type isn't necessary. Um, Bellibolt is one of the best flying switch-ins in the game, so like you don't need Kabutops. Um, get the Lucario. Honestly. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. Another team that could have used Flamigo as well. Um, but yeah, these are my rankings. Um, some of the teams are pretty close. Like the middle was very close, and it was kind of hard to rank, but I kind of just went with it anyways because again, PRs don't matter at all. They don't matter. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed me ripping into your teams for about an hour. And I'll see you guys week 1 when I face Spectre. Hopefully, I don't eat my words and lose to Spectre after shitting on it the most, but um, I think some of these teams are very cool, very fun. Even some of these bottom teams, like, these look fun. Especially, like, I like this team. I rated it last. I still like it. It's just I had to rate it last because it's so slow, and it's like it also doesn't benefit from Trick Room. Um, like this team looks fun. This team looks really fun. Um, this team doesn't look fun, but it looks satisfying when you like outstall someone probably. Wish passing with Aloe is like really fun when you're using it. Not when you're facing it, but when you're using it, it's like so fun. Poisoning things with Muck is super fun. One hit KOing everything with Darmanitan is super fun. Raichu having like 90 special attack and still one hit KOing everything is really fun. This team is really cool. I like the Marowak especially. It was really cheap. He sniped me for Marowak actually. Arcanine is really broken. Um, Glade's very fun. I love Pheasantipity. I love. I don't love Umbreon. Um, yeah, I like Pheasantipity. I actually don't really like this team that much, but it's decent, I think. Um, this is my team. I like Hat. I like Beedrill. Um, two Paradox Mons are really fun. Um, I like Mega Absol a lot. I like Garbodor. I like Bruxish here. I like Prim. I like Roserade, Bosta, Bellibolt, Crocolore. Crocolore won me a chip. Yeah, very cool teams, and thank you guys for watching.